welcome to another episode of Bro History. I'm not even sure if this is going to be Bro History or not. I think this may be a new series that we're trying out, and I'm still haven't even figured out a name for it, but I'm thinking of something called like new podcasts that you should listen to or new shows that you should be, I don't know, something like that. Something that works good for SEO, first of all. And I thought the first guest for this show should be Mr. Pseu, formerly Pseudolectual, which I wasn't able to pronounce before because
that was just formally the name of the show. But if you asked Henry, he would have said intellectual,
well,
which is probably technically correct. And funny story, there's actually already a podcast called Pseudo Intellectual. It's like some Asian chick, never listened, never been inclined to, but yeah. Now it's just a boy named Steve.
Lawyer up, asshole! You stole my name.
Nah, it was a shitter name.
It's kind of funny on YouTube. I saw a new Bro History pop up, but it's called Bros History. And I looked at the video, and it had to be, I think, children who had the video, who made the channel. But there's new Bros History. So this is Bro History, not Bros History. I just want to clear that up for everyone who may be confused by the serious competition that we have in the market of Bro History name. But yeah, this podcast is really going to be, sorry. Oh, excuse me.
Don't die.
This podcast is going to be
on the first episode.
I guess. So a boy named Mr. Pseu and his new podcast, Mr. Pseu,
all right. Okay. Let's back that up because you did the opposite just now.
All right. Let me reverse that. So,
you're the sole reason I changed the name.
Mr. Pseu of a boy named Pseu.
Cool.
I feel that he's been doing a really wonderful job kind of formulating a community around podcasters and political podcasters. I know your main thing is libertarian podcasting, and I think it's great what you're doing. I just noticed that you have a lot of outreach. You collaborated with a lot of people. So I wanted to take time to get you on my show, promote your work to people who may have not have heard of or may have not have listened to your podcast yet, because it's really good. And also just kind of like to pay it forward because you've been doing such a good job of collaborating with other people. And I think it's important that other podcasters, other people who are doing this, who are doing political commentator, actually start collaborating with each other more. So that's why I wanted you to be the star, the main subject matter of the new podcast you should be listening to, Bro History sub show or something. I don't know. We'll have to come up with a better name for this. But
you should just like pick a day of the week and just like dedicate that day to this shit.
What's that?
Maybe. Oh, I was just saying, just like pick a day of the week to just dedicate that to this stuff.
Well, that's exactly what I was planning on doing. You took it right out of my mind. I was planning on doing it maybe if it's not a weekly thing, then at the very least a monthly thing. It really depends on how many people listen to it. If a lot of people listen to it and dig it and they want to kind of collaborate, I don't know, maybe we can build upon this type of show where a bunch of people from different podcasts or solo stuff, who knows? The options are huge.
That's the beauty of the free market, my friend. People are going to like it. People are going to hate it. But I don't know. That's just how the market works out.
It can end up being like a kind of like a Thailand hooker freak show, as far as we know. Eventually, if the market demands it, right?
Yeah, I'd be down with that demo.
It could be a type of thing that Alex Jones watches, right? He likes tranny porn.
Yeah, I don't know. Just don't get me banned.
Don't get you banned. I'm the one who's going to get banned. I'm the one who's going to put it on my show. I'm the one who's going to be saying the fucked up stuff. Well, actually, you'll probably be saying fucked up stuff as well, but it will be under my signature. But
I'll just blame you.
You can just blame me on whatever you want. You can blame me. You can just say Henry from Bro History made you say what you said. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight Mr. Pseu. And I wanted to talk about his show. I wanted to get a good understanding of why you decided to podcast. Your podcast is a voluntarist libertarian show, So I'm just kind of curious, like what
Sure.
inspired you? First of all, what inspired you to start podcasting? Or let's go back to libertarianism first, because I think obviously that came first before you were a libertarian before you started podcasting, right? Or was it the other way around?
It was kind of a simultaneous dance of ideas. So if you want to start with libertarianism,
Ideas?
what
Ideas. Do you know who I'm doing? Dave
is that?
Rubin.
What is that?
Dave
Water?
Rubin.
Oh,
Dave Rubin.
yeah. Well, you
I
sound
just
like
all these
Water Boy.
ideas. I love having Dennis Prager to discuss ideas. Just
Oh, is that from Freedom Tunes?
I don't know if it's from Freedom Tunes or what, but
Okay, well, Seamus from Freedom Tunes does. I mean, he shits on everything, but he does like a very like middle of the road kind of classical liberal libertarianism stuff. His videos can be found on fee.org. But he's just hilarious, and he does the voices of like Dave Rubin, Sam Harris, like all the dork web people. So go check out that dude.
the
But I thought that's who
intellectual
you were
dark web.
stealing. Yes, yes.
The intellectual dark web, the smart people who are subjugated to do all of their intellectual studies in the dark because their ideas are so taboo. The intellectual dark web, because Sam Harris and Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, they have radical ideas, right?
Yeah, yeah. Men don't have ovaries.
I know.
Radical.
Men and women are different. The left is trying to censor us. The left is trying to censor us. They can't take it. They can't take the facts.
Hey, by the way, I did sign up for like early subscription of whatever Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin's like social media site is, whatever. Because I'm
What's the
curious.
deal with that?
Dude, it's okay, it's very cool, it's very strategic. They want to make the content worthwhile. So instead of a short, stupid tweet that I don't know, our president would put out there to rile people up, you need to, if you're gonna tweet or whatever the hell they're gonna call it, you need to put a minimum of 50 characters. So it's cool because you have to kind of like think before you do. And then it's going to be like a Twitter, YouTube, Facebook hybrid, I guess. But
What is it even called?
I can't remember.
See, with those guys, I think what instigated this whole thing was when Sargon of Akkad got kicked off of Patreon. I mean, it's been going on for a while. They are right when they say that conservatives get censored. Like, it's definitely true. But
Yeah.
I mean, those guys specifically, they may have like videos demonetized. I don't think their whole channels are demonetized. Those guys are making a lot of money, especially Rubin and
Crowder.
Crowder's making a bank load. Shapiro's obviously making a
And
lot.
like Google, I think, came to Crowder from the first place, and then they started censoring his videos.
They came to him first, and then they started censoring.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I heard that on Stapleton, but whatever.
I don't know the whole story of how how they're being censored or what the censorship process works with them, but those guys have humongous platforms. They're not being prevented from building upon their platforms that they have already. Like Ben Shapiro's show, Dave Rubin's show, all those, Steven Crowder. If you look at news and politics and at least the iTunes rankings, they're always in the top 50 or so. Like they have humongous platforms. They're not being censored to the point where their message isn't getting out. Like, I meet guys all the time. I'll be talking to someone in the gym and they'll be like, "Hey, do you watch Dave Rubin?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." And so they are definitely reaching people. I guess it sucks to have your video demonetized, but it's not like they're being completely ostracized by the internet. Like, there's some people who are actually completely ostracized by the internet. They're not the people who are ostracized.
Yeah, it's it might be like a conspiracy in mind, but I think they might even be getting paid behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised to have just having it out there that they are getting demonetized or blocked or whatever, censored, might just be like a cover up, and then behind the scenes it's business as usual. But they need to kind of play hardball on some people on the right, possibly, and then just so that they have those as excuses to where they can actually take out people that actually matter to them, like Alex Jones or whatever.
Yeah, Alex Jones was a weird one because Alex Jones was around forever saying a lot crazier stuff than he said right before he got kicked off. But what happened is that, I mean, he did some fucked up things. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't want to defend Alex Jones for what he did with the Sandy Hook kids because that was totally messed up. Those kids
That was
actually died.
out of line.
That was
Yeah.
completely out of line, and he had his fans calling people from survivors of Sandy Hook saying that they were part of a covert false flag operation. That was really wrong what he did, and it's like it's hard for me to have sympathy after that for him. But I still don't think he should be kicked off. But he was saying before he got kicked off, like the things that he said 5 years ago, 10 years ago, really right after 9/11 when he got big, he was like the leader of the 9/11 truth movement. He was never kicked off because he was speaking complete nonsense, really. So it was kind of like a funny thing, like, oh, anyone who believes in conspiracy theories is just a Jonestown lunatic. So I think that's kind of what happened to him. But then he just went too, I think he got too popular and he got too inwoven in that Trump base that got him, that really was kind of the backbone of the Trump campaign. And then he also started speaking about Syria, about how the Syrian chemical weapons attacks were false flags. So I think that's inevitably how he ended up getting axed with all those things combined. With the Sandy Hook thing, though, obviously, honestly, I don't believe in any type of censorship. That was fucked up. I still don't think he should be censored at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. I don't really want to talk anymore about Alex Jones because there's a bunch I don't know, but probably for good reason. Like I never even watched him, like ironically, for the entertainment because I just
Oh,
don't.
no.
And you
I
hear
love
enough
watching his
about
stuff for entertainment value. His stuff is hilarious, but not enough about Alex Jones. So let's go back to so what happened? How did you end up doing this podcast?
what happened. Show me on the doll. Okay, so I think it's more appropriate to, I guess, start with libertarianism. So, like you, I grew up on the right. It's just how my parents voted, functioned, and you know, to some extent, some of it still makes sense to me as far as like, you know, high taxes suck. But it wasn't until you learn about libertarianism, like, hey, enough about high versus low taxes. Why don't we just question the entire notion of taxation itself and really what it's going towards? And all your listeners could probably understand that it's going to war, it's going to mass genocide, it's going to kill people, it's going to, all this horrendous stuff that we're causing because America is the new world empire, as we all should know. Um, but that tangent aside, basically I started on the right, and I was like a wee lad when 9/11 happened. So the whole 24-hour news cycle, it really just jaded me. And I think like any kid, you're really apolitical, or you might be rah-rah come election on whatever side that your parents are going to vote for. But a lot of it, you just kind of block out because it's annoying, especially when you grew up around the like height of Fox News. And it's just like the Charlie Brown teacher, like wah 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 wah, like the entire time. So you block out politics when you're a kid. Now fast forward, I guess, I'm gonna say 15 is really my step to the left direction of libertarianism, because you can be, libertarians have no problem with the being super radical, rather radical right and radical left, because that's actually the only way that you can stay consistent. But when we talk about like the leftward side, I was 15, and for some reason we were talking about like the draft. I don't know why. I don't know if I was studying it in school at this time, but the idea of the draft is stupid, uh, uh, aside the point. But somehow at dinner that came up, and man, what exactly happened? There was basically I got called a coward if I didn't go to war, because if there was a draft, like my dad was like, "Oh, they can bring that thing back anytime," and then they're like, Sue, you wouldn't go to war, like, you coward. And I'm just like, that's not my job. It's just not. I have plans, and even if I'm a dumb 15-year-old and I don't have plans for myself, that's not on my bucket list, if you know what I mean. Unless if you want your son to come home in a bucket or a casket, rather. So that was just really eye-opening to me, and just kind of like their reaction is just like, wow, our son is like, not a POS, but just the fact that I'm just like the dogma behind it all. Like, if you grew up in America and you, I don't know. I guess if we got like legitimately invaded, I mean that's fine, but that shouldn't be a matter of conscription. That should just result to guerrilla warfare, because we can have the argument about the police where citizens are going to unite. There are plenty of guns in this country, and there's plenty of people that are, I'm not one of them, but they know much more what to do with a gun and have that better training than the police force. So that was really the one highlight where I had like a left awakening. How war is bad, it's stupid. And I mean, this is even before like I learned about real foreign policy, like what happened, what really caused 9/11, and all that stuff. Um, so long story short, that's kind of why what makes me libertarian. And then other than like on the right side, not paying taxes, like, and keep my money. When you first go to school, college, and you get like a bill back of all the shit that you don't use, but you're having to pay for. So like the rec center, the library, the bus. It's like, I guess a la carte's never really a thing. I mean, of course it's not, because it's a public university. So that's just another, appendage of the state to brainwash us all. Um, but yeah. So I feel like I was always somewhat inherently libertarian, and I think everyone is, because really the creative libertarianism is the non-aggression principle, the NAP, as it's thrown around. But essentially, definition is no man or group shall aggress against another person, property, or, anything of the sort. And then you have to kind of break down, like, what does aggression mean? And all it is the initiation of the use or threat of physical violence against a person, of their property, or anyone else. And it's synonymous with invasion. And like, once you're in high school, you kind of get out of the real clickiness, or at least for me, I went to a smaller high school. I don't know about you, but like at the end of the day, the the fog clears and the clickiness is kind of gone, and you realize that, yeah, people hang out with certain people that play sports going to hang out with them, but like at the end of the day, everyone's like on the same playing field of like, dude, like you do you and I'll do me. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not cool with me, then I shouldn't be cool with you. But I mean, there's no reason for us to fight about it unless if you initiate it. Therefore, I have, the right of self-preservation and self-defense. But, I kind of feel like, why isn't everyone considered like a libertarian? I mean, they probably already are, but they just don't know it. And maybe they might be more sympathetic when it comes to social issues of like, oh, well, who's the famous meme of who's going to build the roads, who's going to take care of all of these public programs. And then that might be kind of harder, where you have to kind of lift the veil of really what the free market's all about and how that's much more efficient than government, because all of that kind of leads down to is a road of state bureaucracy where all the funds are really our tax dollars. That basically taxation is rape. Let's be honest. Not only is it theft, it's fucking straight up rape. Let's just call it what it is. And taking our tax dollars and applying it to all this great stuff, like, oh shit, where do you want to start? The police force, healthcare, all the things that otherwise no one could solve on themselves. It's funny, I put a tweet out last night, and my grandmother was like, I need to feel needed. And that's on an individual basis. And that, I mean, just my sorry ass aside of being like the pathetic grandson, but like that just goes to show at the individual level that people do care. I mean, I feel like that's kind of like in our nature to be self-interested, but self-interest is expressed in multiple ways. And I think a lot of people are real humanitarians that have, philanthropic aspirations, to where the free market, in a true free market, not this corporatist BS, to where, again, like all of our tax dollars don't get to the public sector programs, they get, you know, eaten up by the rich bureaucrats, administrators at the top. In a real free market, the free market will provide solutions to people that actually care about feeding the poor, or sheltering the homeless, or coming up with free market solutions for healthcare. That is a trickier thing to really reveal. And I think that's because that there's just so many barriers to entry and so many regulations that are already put in place in the system that we are living in, because we don't live in a free market, we live in corporatists. And I joke at the beginning of my shows, you can pick up this podcast on this quasi-fascist, quasi-socialist, dressed up as capitalist, but this mixed economy that's nowhere near dear to the free market. Because at the end of the day, people that are liberty-minded do kind of point to the free market for whatever solution. Because people do care. Those are the real experts, the so-called bureaucrats in government, the intellectuals. I mean, we can talk about the intellectuals that really, Woodrow Wilson. I mean, he's kind of like the bane of every foreign policy, quagmire in existence. But
He was also the
it's really,
ugliest human being ever in American history.
dude, he looks like a ghost lizard man. Like, no shit. Like, you've seen that. I guess all the portraits of him are black and white, but there's just this one stone cold, like, scaly, black and white, ghostly skeleton picture of him. It's just like, this fucker. It's all him, because without him, there wouldn't be the Fed, there wouldn't be the income tax, there wouldn't have been World War One, which dominoed effect into World War II, and all the shit shows that led up to today. But long story short, or short story long, rather, point to the free market and voluntarism. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate threat to our personal and economic liberties, our true freedom, is the state, which is just a monopoly of force. That's all it is. So I think the best way to preserve our rights, our inalienable rights, like I just had Scott Horton on my show last week, and I was asking him what true Americanism is. And the best example of it is, whether or not they meant it or not, what they wrote in the Declaration of Independence. Because it was hilarious. He was joking, like, Benjamin Franklin was like, "Put this in, Tom," as in Thomas Jefferson. "Seems like we hold these truths to be self-evident, that everyone's created equal." Like, and this goes back to the non-aggression principle, that it's not just that we should be principled. It's like the obligation to not aggress towards people. And that's really all what boils down to it. And the consistent threat, the consistent aggressor through thousands of years has been the state. And the best way to combat it is to really embrace technology and hopefully get it to it before the state does. Because when it gets there sooner, that's kind of what happens with the Industrial Revolution and the cartelization of all industry. And that's how Scott and Sheldon Richman and Rothbard, really, that's what they mean, is that, progressivism was truly a right-wing plot. It was a plot of the establishment and the American government, and them just really being scared of the individual and embracing technology to better themselves. Because at the end of the day, we are a threat to the state that is being coerced as a parasite upon us. We are its worst enemy. And again, the way to combat that is just, embrace technology and get to it before they do, and really just educate people on all of these thoughts.
Yeah, technology is definitely the best way to empower yourself against the government. And you bring up good points. Governments kill more people than anyone. There's no question about what has killed more people than anything in the world. It's been governments. The
It's the
biggest
health
death
of the
tolls in the
state,
world.
man. War is the health of the state.
It's always been the things that kill the most people are if you go down the list of just death numbers in history, it's not religion. It's not. Yeah, there's been huge wars between religious factions. There's been huge wars between the Catholics and the Protestants. There was a huge one in the 16th century, but those
But the
wars.
worst religion of it all is statism.
Yeah, exactly. And in these wars that they might be. So a lot of people like to say religion is like a cause of major wars. So I'm not trying to push like religion down anyone's throat right now, but a big example that people will use will be the wars between the Catholics and the Protestants and the wars that are going on between Sunnis and Shiites. Like those are the two big examples that people love to use. Like, oh, religion causes nothing but harm. But what people don't realize is that it's not the religion. Maybe the conflict started because of religion. So maybe there was a difference, like in terms of the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. Maybe there was a difference of whether there should be a pope and a hierarchy, or you should have a direct relationship with God. But that eventually turned into who controls the actual money, who controls the actual state, and
Exactly.
it comes down to sectarian nepotism, and that's how these big wars really start. And that's the same thing that you see in the Middle East right now between Sunnis and Shiites. It's not Sunnis and Shiites. It's not the lineage of Muhammad they're fighting over. It's because of when a Sunni's in power and when a Sunni hands all the government jobs to other Sunnis, then the Shiites, when they get their chance to get in power, they're going to want revenge on that class. So I think you make a great point about governments killing and governments being the biggest offenders. We can talk about Mao, we can talk about Stalin, we can talk about Hitler, we can talk about pretty much all these really bad governments that existed. You can even talk about the U.S. because we killed a lot of damn people. U.S. death toll right now, as far as military engagements between World War II and now, is it's millions and millions and millions between North Korea, Vietnam, all the Middle Eastern wars, and all that stuff. And World War II, what are we talking about? Like the millions we killed in World War II. So governments kill people. And I think it's important to realize that. So I saw an interesting story that I think that you would find interesting. So there was these cops in a Starbucks, and apparently they got kicked out because they were making people feel uncomfortable. So I want your initial reaction on that. Or maybe you want me to did you hear about that story? Do you want me to bring up the headline?
Yeah, bring it up.
I can share it with you.
The
I don't want to just throw it.
Starbucks kicked out the cops.
The Starbucks kicked out the cops.
What were the cops doing exactly that made people uncomfortable?
I don't know. I think their presence just...
Did they use the bathroom without buying a drink?
They asked for a Blue Lives discount.
Really?
I'm just making that up. Let's see.
Oh shit. Right. That's a story right there.
If they did Blue Lives discount, that's just straight up extortion if that happens. Where the fuck is this article? Let's see.
Can I get a Blue Lives Crappuccino? It's like one of the like the unicorn. Oh no. Crappuccino's the play on cappuccino. But in my head I'm thinking frappuccino, but the R is in there. So the R makes me want to use crappuccino for frappuccino. Which frappuccinos are just straight up like milkshakes. Let's be real. They're a little bit more refreshing. They have crushed ice in it sometimes.
I'm not a pussy bitch, so I don't drink frappuccinos.
Oh, I'm not either. I don't even go to Starbucks. Dude, I drive like across town to the Speedy Stop. I don't know if you got Speedy Stops up there in New York, but
I almost just exited out of the whole thing. We're still good though.
Let it fucking go.
I almost... All right, you see my screen? Let's see.
Oh, look at that. We're sharing screens. This is what I meant about technology.
Hide the tranny porn. The Chinese are superimposed it on here. All right. Dump hashtag dump Starbucks hashtag and national hand wringing over police incident today's talker. So this isn't a direct article, but I'm sure it's going to reference it.
A treatment all too common. It's happened more than once.
So basically what happened was that a couple days ago, there was some people who felt uncomfortable and they kicked them out. And I guess the point I was trying to make without diving too deep into this article right here is that, like, I feel pretty uncomfortable when I'm around cops. I don't know. Do you?
I mean, who doesn't?
It always adds. I'm not saying that all the cops are necessarily bad. I actually had some really, really close family friends who were cops and who are great people. But if you're just like chilling on a subway or something, it's New York talk. It's where we run into our popo. And then a bunch of cops walk in. You're always kind of like, this guy could just make something up and throw me to jail for no reason whatsoever, and there'll be no consequence for him at all.
Yeah, they totally could. No, yeah, everyone gets that. Dude, I don't know. Just if a cop like is behind me, my heart jumps and I'm just like, oh shit, what I do? And
Were you a skateboarder?
Kind of. I did. Barely. I didn't get caught for that. But I actually think a cop might have saved my life in a way, indirectly. But I had my cousin in town and we went to the elementary school when it was empty. We were just like bored, and for some reason he found a shelf and put it on the hood of someone's car. Don't ask me why. I don't know. We were like 15. And then as we were walking away, the owners of the car were apparently going to come kick our ass, or so like the cop said. So apparently the cop like scared him away, but then he like questioned us, what were y'all doing on the school roof? Because I mean, that's what we did after we put the shelf on the car, which was completely harmless. But this was like a very like nicer area of town that I grew up in. So they have like bumfuck nothing else to do but like, get kids for beer and weed and whatever else. But maybe if he wasn't there, he would have we would have got jumped. I don't think so though. Maybe, I don't know. But it does suck because even like when they tell you to like sit on the curb when you have to call your parents to get picked up, they're always dicks about that. And I guess I was nervous. Like I've always had Tourette's, so I guess the way I was like moving or shaking, he thought that I was being a smartass. And when my dad gets there, he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like this kid like doesn't do anything wrong at school. Like this guy's an angel." Like he didn't say that, but like I don't know. Like cops can definitely, if they want, they can take you to jail. They can, I mean, whatever. They probably got quotas they have to meet. But this is pretty cool that because I would assume like any like restaurant chain, be it Chick-fil-A, whatever, like they're individual owners of certain like locations, right? So that's kind of like a private sector like entrepreneur win to have like his public establishment basically tell like um you know I don't know, they're troopers or whatever, but just basically telling the law to like get the fuck out. You're ruining my business. So that's a win for them.
Point. That's a fantastic point. It is a good win. It just shows you that you do have some defense against the state. You can tell them to get out when. I don't know if it's just like because of pressure or liberal pressure. If it's liberal pressure, then it's the good type of liberal pressure. But when things like that happen, I mean, no matter what your feelings are,
know what they were doing.
What's that?
Do we know what they were doing in there?
I think they were just there.
Fights?
That article, I need one of those. You watch Joe Rogan?
Pull that shit.
I need a fucking Jamie. Because whenever
that's what Danny is, right?
No, I'm usually the one who pulls the articles up, but I'm doing like 5 things at once. I just typed in Jamie in my search bar. Like,
I love it when dumb shit like that happens. It's great.
When I remember I was like doing something for a job, and I was like filling out a paperwork, and someone said chicken while I was filling it out, and I wrote chicken on the paperwork.
Was it in the name section?
It was like in a special like instruction section. I just wrote chicken.
Chicken, chicken Zamata.
It
Dude, that
confused
sounds good.
everyone.
Chicken Zamata sounds like like uh I don't know, some Indian dish. Nice, cool. Anyway, I didn't really answer your question when I went on that tirade, did I? How did I
Well,
get into podcasting?
my question was how did you become a libertarian and politically active, and what led you to make a podcast?
It was like the short answer is Dave Smith. He really just like put the nail in the coffin for me. Was that the right expression? I don't know. But he really like nailed it in for me. But the way I got to Dave Smith is another story. So, here's where I got sidetracked. So I went off the rails when I was 15. So I don't know. Fast forward, like, oh, by the way, I like had to fucking like vote Republican after that. Some regrets, I guess. But so come, let's say, sophomore year of college is when I get fed up with just not knowing shit that's going on in the world. And just like my parents, because they're older, you just assume that, like, they know everything. So you're like, oh, well, how do they know stuff? Oh, well, they listen to, like, or at least my mom, occasionally I would hear in the car, like, she listened to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I'll start there. So I was listening to, like, AM right wing talk dudes, but then I knew I had to like counterbalance that out. So I listened to NPR. And before Tom Ashbrook got Me Too'd, he was awesome. I love Tom Ashbrook. Bring him back, damn it. Um, but I would listen to stuff like that and like Terry Gross's show. And that's also how I got into podcasting, to be honest. That and Bill Burr's podcast, which is amazing, because when you're a young adult, you have all this angst and just uncertainty to do with yourself. And the best release is just to hear some middle-aged dude who's going bald and is funny as shit to just like say all the rage for you. That's cathartic as fuck, if you ask me. But him and NPR podcast is really what got me into podcasting, and then from there, I guess it spiraled to other stuff. So I eventually graduated from like the AM dudes to more right wing podcasts, believe it or not. But so from Rush Limbaugh, uh, Buck Sexton was filling in one day, and I'm like, yo, this guy sounds like young and relatable. He's a millennial, or as he called himself, a graybeard millennial. And he had the Buck Sexton show on the Blaze Radio Network, which, yes, I did listen to the Blaze a little bit, to be honest, but only to hear him. And I think he was actually like the number one like listened to show on that network. And then he eventually left, and he was with Radio One, America Now, Radio One, whatever thing Sean and Rush are on. And then that was turned into a podcast, and all the episodes he did on the Blaze was turned into a podcast as well. So I was listening to that on a weekly basis, and from there, I don't know how, but definitely 2016 was like the year for people to pay attention to politics. For better or for worse. I hope, at least in my case, and for um, most people's cases, it was for better. But like a lot of cool, crazy stuff was going on because you had people like Crowder and Gavin McInnes and like Milo really like get out there and have a voice, and they were provocative and fun. And those aren't like my favorite dudes, but I bring them up because on Crowder, he would have Owen Benjamin come on, and Owen Benjamin had his streams, as he still does, and he's taking quite a turn in the past year and a half or so. As have I. I think I might be the stereotypical like there's a 6-month transition period from like being a minarchist to like anarchist in a way. But Owen Benjamin brought up names like Dave Smith and Jason Stapleton, and it was really like Dave Smith that nailed it home for me because he was just so fun. I mean, he's not like the most hilarious dude, but he's funny. But it's just the way that he is like soft spoken but passionate at the same time, and the way he articulates these points that are just in like the layman's terms, like, okay, here's the bullshit that's going on. And this is why both sides suck. And I'm actually coming from the left. That's right. I was a Jewish kid growing up with a single mom, and I got my ass kicked, and I used to be a lefty, maybe socialist. And then I was exposed to Ron Paul and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I eventually got into Ron Paul, but he was really the one that nailed it home for me. And through him, I found Scott, I found Pete Raymond, and, just kind of branched off there. And it really just solidified just everything that kind of like made sense. Like, I would never imagine that I could understand economics. I'm not trying to claim to be an economist, but like, Henry, like you joked when you were on my show, you're like, well, I think it might be paleo, libertarian, whatever, but you wouldn't want me to debate in against Austrian economics. Well, brother, here's how simple Austrian economics is, okay? So let's go back to war, and I did cheat a little bit. I took some notes I want to use here, but fuck it, let's just go from here. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward that conscription is slavery on a massive scale. The draft, they call it conscription. It's a euphemism. But how do you pay for that? And that goes back to taxes. And this is kind of like, actually, it is Austrian Economics 101, because the great Henry Hazlitt came out with a book called Economics in One Lesson. And the main like cornerstone example he uses is the broken window theory. So what does that mean? Well, it's the Austrian approach of looking at economics and how the state is the, again, consistent, coercive being of how, everything it does in the private sector really ruins it for the individual and, limits prosperity and disallows people to get ahead and do better for themselves. So the best example of that is the broken window theory, which is, Henry, you got a bakery, all right? And you're baking cupcakes, you're baking cookies, you're baking cakes, you're doing all of it. You're the fucking gingerbread man, dude. So you got some punk ass kid, let's call him some typical liberal. I don't know. Let's call him Danny. Danny throws a rock in your window.
Gary Johnson not saying that he would make Jews make a Nazi cake. I don't know why I brought that up, but whenever someone throws,
yeah,
if you throw
Sorry.
libertarian and bakery in a sentence together, or I goes to Gary Johnson's disastrous campaign. But sorry to
oh no,
nonsense.
It's cool. I try to block him out of existence in my mind. Although he did actually get some people into libertarianism. I think maybe indirectly he got me thinking about that stuff, because honestly, like, the ones that do run make the most sense. I remember like being 12 or whatever when Ron Paul first ran. I'm like, this old guy actually makes the most sense out of the rest of the old fucks. So, but
when Ron Paul ran, when he first ran in 2008, so I was 17, 18 years old. I couldn't understand that a Republican was anti-war. Like, it was like so mind-blowing to me. I was like, whoa, what? How can you be anti-war? You're a Republican. You can't do that. You're supposed to be with Bush. My brain exploded. It was a weird thing.
Yeah, man. For anyone that's listening, go pick up Ron Paul's The Revolution Manifesto. And then once you read that, pick up Murray Rothbard's For a New Liberty, The Libertarian Manifesto, because that'll fix all the problems. In fact, like, all the notes I took today, like, first 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes of chapter 2 of like the Libertarian Creed, and it all boils down to like property rights. But if you are confused, hopefully today's show will clear some things up and clear up the blurred lines of what is and what isn't a libertarian. But if you want a starter pack, go get Ron Paul's Revolution Manifesto, bestseller. Highly recommend. But I was talking about economics. So if I could just finish up this anecdote real quick. So Danny throws a rock in your window at your bakery, and then you're like, oh, well, shit, that's like, what, $1,000 to fix? well, that $1,000, hey, look at that. I'm going to pay this glazier, I think that's what they're called, to fix my window. So, hey, I'm contributing to the economy, right? I'm, this guy's working hard. He's good at what he does. So, yeah, I guess I paid him a day's job because, hey, I'm giving back to the economy. Well, no. What could that $1,000 really gone to? You wouldn't know because that's what's unseen. So that's what Hazlitt kind of puts forward. It's the unseen, it's the seen versus the unseen. So what's not seen is that maybe that $1,000 was going to Bob, who was like employee of the month. That was gonna go towards his bonus, or maybe you're gonna reinvest it in like fresh organic flour or whatever. The point is, it doesn't matter because that's your goddamn money in the first place. So punk ass kid Danny on the street breaking your window, like that's unfortunate. Man, I feel bad about using his name. Dang. Sorry, Danny. I love you, dude. Man, that guy, he's a fucking angel. Holy crap. But anyway, but
What,
you can take
he's too nice to get mad at?
No, I don't know. I like to tease, but now I have regrets. Danny, I'm sorry. But this is me being empathetic. Anyway, but take that street urchin and just replace it with the state, because that's exactly what the state does with your taxes, and that's what it does to war. So we're going to tax more than 50% of our taxes is going to the military industrial complex, which is a shit show all on its own, paying for like $10,000 toilet seat covers, and yeah, I mean military contracts, whatever. So where could more than half of our tax dollars really go to? Our families, putting down a loan for a house, invest. It doesn't fucking matter because that's your money in the first place. That's exactly what the state does, and this goes hand in hand. Like war is the health of the state, and we are basically its host and its parasite to keep going. It depends on us, because without us, the public sector literally gets nothing done. It's a shit show. So that's Austrian economics in a shell.
Do you know who does my favorite presentation of Austrian economics?
Walter Block?
Kane.
Wait, as in
The wrestler. Glenn Jacobs.
All right, keep talking.
Kane, the rest. You ever watch WWF, WWE when you were growing up?
No, I didn't. I'm a bitch in that department.
Dude, so Kane, do you know who Kane is?
I've heard of him. Enlighten me.
All right, let me show you a picture of Kane. You just need to understand this.
Back when Kane was able.
That's Kane.
Yo.
Kane.
How tall is this dude?
He's like 6'10" or something like that.
Nice.
Kane is the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
Holy shit.
And he is a Rothbardian libertarian.
Hell yeah.
Glenn Jacobs. Look up Glenn Jacobs. And it's
how's he not like run?
What's that?
How's he not ran for like the LP? I mean, just as a joke, like with that much like clout behind him, well, I mean, he could win over all like the tough dude like rightists. And okay, sorry, I'll let you talk. I'm mesmerized right now.
So Glenn Jacobs, he's always been a smart guy. He's been doing lectures on Austrian economics for the past like 15 years or so. He's been doing it for quite a while. He's been he's been a Rothbardian for a pretty long time. And he's happened to be a professional wrestler at the same time, which is it's just funny. So he ran for office at Knoxtown for mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. He won his election. and this was last year. So, you know, we'll see if he goes into a deeper political career. It would be quite amazing if he, let's just say, if he ran for Senate or something like that later on in his career. It'd be pretty cool to have Kane, and which would ultimately lead up the greatest presidential debate of all time: The Rock versus Kane as president.
Oh shit!
You should write.
Wow.
I've watched his stuff, and he just, I guess he's speaking to me because he's not speaking to economists. He's speaking to noobs like me. So it's
Dude,
Ron Paul does a great job speaking to noobs as well, like myself. And the Fed is really good for beginners who just want to get like the general ideas. So I'll let you know my favorite writers. So my favorite writers are not necessarily the libertarian writers, but I'm not saying it's not because I'm not as well read on most libertarian writers, to be
I
completely
mean,
honest.
I'm not either. I have like a stack of books I need to get to.
I'm like, I know I've read Rothbard pretty much. That's like the mate Rothbard, and Ron Paul are really, and I read the Henry Hazlitt book you're talking about too. I've read that, and my favorite one is my favorite book in economics is just Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell.
Dude, I've been meaning to get into his stuff because I hear amazing things, and I don't know. Where should I start with that? How much of Soul have you read?
Dude, every book, you can't go wrong with any of his books. They're all just
What's like the
brilliantly written.
staple?
I think his most famous book, just because it's probably the most controversial, is White Liberal Black Redneck.
Okay, yeah.
That's like the one that's really kind of, it's a shelf grabber because it has such a crazy title. But really, the thesis of the book is that modern day African American culture actually derives from like poor Anglo-Saxon culture, like Scots-Irish culture, and the English
Oh,
brought
yeah.
black culture over to they brought that over to America, and that's what current black culture is. And Soul's you know, he's an African American dude from Harlem, and it's just really interesting take. And he writes, there's a lot of other, it's a series of essays really what the book is. And he also throws in some essays about public education and how different minority groups do fare in different countries and how that's all culture. Like he uses case studies with the Japanese and the Germans going into different countries and how different groups prosper really wherever they go due to their culture, and different groups fail due to their culture as well.
Is he like a Molyneux IQ guy?
No.
Okay, cool.
No. He's not like that at all. And I
I
hate
think
that
I said
argument from
bullshit for the
Molyneux. I don't
record.
like that argument at all.
Fuck
Um,
IQ, dude.
what's that?
I said fuck IQ. I hate that argument.
The race and IQ argument is, I think, is really it's really dumb. I'm not about. I think it's something that's of course IQ is going to be different on average per country, but there's so many different factors that go into that. Like you got to take into account like how serious the students are who are taking the IQ test to understand like the merits of what the IQ test is. Like they don't take everything into account, and they try to use this argument that, you know, Western Europe and Asian countries, they are more prosperous because of the IQ levels. That has nothing to do with it. And Thomas Sowell spells this out really well in his books. It's one of his prime talking points. Societies are developed based on their geography. So things like rivers, things like where ocean access, natural resources, those are the main reasons why a country prospers. It has nothing to do with their IQ or their race or anything like that. And also he goes into their economic and political systems. That's why countries prosper as well. He doesn't use race. He doesn't use race and IQ. He strictly uses examples of how Black people from the North would score higher on testing than Southerners back in the 1800s. You know, he uses examples like that. So he's definitely not a race and IQ person. He's more of a culture person. Like, he explains the differences between cultures, and he tries to explain things like why countries fail and why countries prosper. And so I think he's great. I think he's a great read if you want to counter that argument, the race and IQ one. But I'm definitely not a fan of the Molyneux stuff. A lot of people fall for it. A lot of people fall for it because those guys don't go challenged, because people don't want to be associated with them a lot of the times, because they don't even want to. People don't want to engage in that race and IQ argument because you're stigmatized even when you debate race and IQ. Like, just for interacting with people who preach race and IQ, you're stigmatized for it. So there's a huge problem because those people never get sunshine, you know?
Yeah, and I think it might align with like insecurities too, and just like, how gullible someone is as well. But
it's so dumb because you're basically a social justice warrior,
on the right,
identitarian.
or like under science.
When you take pride in your white identity, you're just a loser. Like, I'm proud of my white identity. What? Like, no one cares. Like, what, you're proud because your ancestors may have built the steam engine? Shut the fuck up. Like, these people don't have like smart people talking to them, these like race and IQ people, and they just they get into these dogmatic circles where all they hear is each other. So they come up and everything is related to race and IQ. It's like, oh, it's race and IQ, it's race and IQ. That doesn't matter. It's your political system and it's your economic system that you have in your country and where your country is located. Like, countries prosper because they have access to trade on the sea or they're near rivers. That's why Western Europe prospered, because Western Europe has a coastal access and there's plenty of rivers there. There's nothing to do with their superior Western European genetics. Those and then assholes like that, I mean, whatever, they can have their opinion, but I think it's just a dumb, shallow argument. And I'm not really a fan of it. I don't really listen to Molyneux that much, so I don't really know what cases he makes. I've heard he makes those cases.
I just hear it's funny. Actually,
he creeps me out, to be completely honest. I don't know how many Molyneux fans are listening to this, but he has like this weird aura of like a cult leader. Whenever I'm just like, ugh. This guy looks like he's gonna give you a pill and you're not gonna wake up. Like, he's gonna ask you to commit mass suicide with him, and
it's not the red pill either.
It's not the red pill. It's the cyanide pill that takes you to planet Nubula, where Stefan is your Lord Master philosopher king.
Yeah, you know what's ironic though? Like, he claims to be an atheist, but then his videos are like him in a white background, like as if he's in heaven. Or like it's all like Bruce Almighty'd out. It's like, dude, you want to? He probably has a cult, or maybe he's trying to start one. Everyone's just like,
He's been accused of that. He's been accused of being like a quasi cult leader. Again, I don't know that much about that activity. Like, I've never looked into his cult, the status of his cult that he may or may not have, but I know that's like an accusation he gets, is that he has like kind of a weird internet cult where he kind of preaches like quasi psychology.
It's called the dark web, bro.
Yeah, apparently he preaches like these are the accusations that are made. You know, I don't want to be the person who's saying I've done the reporting on it at all, but the accusations are
just say allegedly before everything, then yourself.
All right, exactly. Allegedly, everything allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly he tells people to like leave their families or something like that. Honestly, I probably have no business talking about it because I don't know the full story. I don't watch his stuff to give you that, but I just know that he's really associated with the race IQ stuff. I don't know. Is that fair? Is it fair? Like, I don't know. Someone listening to this, let me know. Is he a race and IQ guy? That's what I hear around the street.
If so, it's just kind of, similarly to what, states have done. They just do that to create nationalism and tribalism. and brainwashing so that they can abide by whatever the state really wants them to do. So maybe that's the angle that he's trying to go with, like in his cults and brainwash people into believing the IQ stuff. But yeah, likewise, I can't speak on it much. The only reason it's really come to my attention is because huge shout out to this podcast, because they're the reason I'm doing like mine in the first place. But they're called the Friends Against Government. You should have them on. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, that was going to be, honestly, I was going to ask you, I think that might be, I want to switch it up because I don't want to
Yeah.
not say
Because of them,
anything.
they joke about Stefan and like him blocking them, and they just like call out his like racist BS.
Oh,
But
they
that's
do? That would be really fun then. That actually sounds like a great idea. I didn't want to alienate, because believe it or not, there's a good amount of progressives that listen to this, so I'm sure they're not exactly.
Hey guys, what's up?
There's a good amount of progressives that listen to this show because, I'm anti-war and stuff. And I don't really talk too much about economics. And when I do talk about economics, it's usually with Danny, who disagrees with me on a lot of stuff. So it's like a fair balance. So for the people who are like, oh, well, I can deal with the fact that he may not, be a democratic socialist or whatever, the fact he doesn't really spout his economics beliefs on it. He divorces himself from his domestic policy before he gets on the show. But I will get progressives on. I just need to know a good progressive to.
They're awesome, dude. Get Max Blumenthal.
Well, Max Blumenthal, I would talk to him about foreign policy because that's his wheelhouse. He does stuff on. I mean, I love Max Blumenthal. I think he's awesome. I would talk to him probably about Syria or Palestine. I mean, like that's his thing. Like
And Venezuela.
Middle East. He's the guy. I count on Max Blumenthal for a lot of the information on this show. I mean, he's a really good journalist.
To your progressive listeners, believe it or not, guys, libertarians are the true leftists. Just so you know.
Well, it's kind of funny. So a lot of hardcore libertarians, they start off as progressives or even Marxist, and they make that switch. This is like a common theme I've come across when
I've heard the opposite too, because you have people like
the opposite happens too.
Well,
I think it's an extreme thing.
I only knew of his whatever, like I don't even know how long ago it happened. Like he used to be like libertarian, whatever. Now he's like alt right, racist, whatever. I don't even know. But dude, I've kind of questioned this, and I thought it would make more sense to people from like the right to come, just because people vote with their like pocketbook. But then once you're like libertarian, you don't vote because you understand it's just complete bull. But I think that's a really good question. I want there to be a case study on how common it is to, seek liberty from the left or the right.
Well, here's my thing with progressives. Like, I'm really sympathetic towards I'm sympathetic towards a lot of leftists. I'm a huge fan of a lot of like leftist thinkers. I'm not a leftist myself, but I'm a big fan of guys like George Galloway, who's a straight up commie. George Galloway is a Marxist, and I'm a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan of him because he's probably one of the great living human rights activists in the world right now. I mean, I take the stuff I disagree with, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I say, this guy is a really good champion for human rights. I'm going to listen. Like this guy has a lot, what he says about human rights is 100% of value, even if I disagree with
him. Chomsky? Because I haven't heard of this dude.
No, man, he's better than Chomsky, I think.
I haven't even heard like the best of Chomsky.
So I'm not necessarily the biggest Chomsky guy in the world. Just never really did it for me, to be completely honest. George Galloway is a Scottish.
That sells right there. He's got an accent. It's like.
And he's really, really big on Palestinian rights, and he was really big in his younger days. He was really big on fighting apartheid in South Africa. So he's just like a human rights activist all the way. Doesn't pull any punches when it comes to criticizing anyone. So I got a lot of respect for him. I got a lot of respect for a lot of the anti-war journalists that come from the left. such as, Blumenthal, Greenwald, I think, is probably one of the best. I don't know if there is a better journalist in the world right now than Glenn Greenwald as far as
Gareth
just
Porter.
his platform. What's that?
Gareth Porter.
Well, I mean, Gareth Porter's great, but Glenn Greenwald he has a household name. Like he's one of the biggest, most famous journalists in the world, and he's not like a corporate shill fuck. He has like high, heavy principles, and it's very rare. He's the biggest. I think he's the most famous journalist in the world who's principled at the same time. Because most big journalists like Brian Settler or Rachel Maddow, they're just corporate hack losers. This guy is actually a legit dude. Who has a huge name. I mean, he broke Edward Snowden files. I mean, that was huge. He did all the work on. I mean, he fights for privacy. That's his main thing that he fights for. Like, he's an activist for privacy against government. Like, I can agree with that. I don't care where you come politically. If you're fighting for privacy, then I'm with you, man. Like, I'm totally with you. I don't care what your economics are. Like, if your message is, anti-imperialism, I'm with you, man. Like, you can be a socialist. I'm with you on that. We will disagree on economics down the road, but I am with you when it comes to actually fighting government infringency on privacy and war. So, like, I try to build my bridges when it comes to that, rather than be one of these guys who's like, oh, fucking AOC, hey, she's going to be communist and she's the bartender and she's stupid. Like, that's kind of...
And people like that are just straight up distractions. Like, you can tell that she's, groomed, and she's just she is a distraction and just another false candidate that they put up there.
It was kind of a fluke thing. What happened with AOC is that she's
a perky-titted psycho bitch and everyone likes her.
It's not that everyone likes her. It's that she campaigned really hard. And what's his name? Joe Fuckface, the congressman in her district. I forgot his name. He was like a very, very establishment Democrat. He didn't campaign at all because he thought that he was going to win the election in a landslide. And then what's that?
Is it DiMaggio? Oh, de Blasio.
No, that's AOC beat.
It doesn't matter. I don't live there. I don't know why I asked.
I should know this because I'm in New York, but it's not my district. Joseph Crowley. Okay.
Okay.
So she beat Joseph Crowley, who was like a very, very establishment Democrat who didn't really campaign, and she went door to door, and she really got a bit. She worked a really hard campaign, and then she won. She won the election, and it was a weird fluke. No one expected it to happen on the DNC, and she's young. She says very provocative things that really steam and piss off conservatives and libertarians. So she gets a lot of media attention. I mean, that's really it.
Trump. I mean, I said she's like the Trump on the left.
Yeah,
she's
kind of
can like say dumb stuff and piss people off and just get attention. Then that's really all you need to be successful.
Yeah,
that's kind of relative, but get attention.
She'll probably be in Congress for the foreseeable future. I don't see her going anywhere in Congress. I don't think she'll be in a cabinet position, or she's going to be selected as a VP or anything like that. I don't know how far she moves in her political career. Maybe if Bernie Sanders is elected, he imagine if she was VP. That'd be funny.
I mean, if he's still alive.
Bernie, yeah, I know. Bernie is old. For the progressive listeners, I don't like Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders is like not who he says he is.
You want to talk? Yeah, I was gonna say you want to talk about shills. I mean, Bernie, like, are you doing this for your grandkids? You think you got another book in you, buddy? Like, do you want this? I don't think you want this, dude. Like, I think you're just trying to leave a legacy. But I mean, I like all of them up there are just like fake candidates. I mean, the reason why I think we're seeing more, but even in the past, like anyone that runs is just doing it for opportunistic, you know, op- opportunities. I mean, hey, I'll get a book deal out of this. Hey, it's just good for PR, like whatever. Like no one gives a shit. And like to these days,
Swolwell,
like
he got out.
not like
What's Eric Swolwell? He dropped out.
the bro,
The
the
PC
PC bro.
bro, the gun. I'm gonna take your guns, bro. If I'm president, Eric Swolwell will take all the guns. Michael Tracy, he tweeted out, President Swalwell taking the guns is how America ends, which I thought was hilarious.
I mean, he's not wrong. Again, like there are more weapons than there are people, and some people really like their weapons, so fucking try it. Not claiming to be one of those people, but definitely don't want to piss off. Dude, if a Starbucks can kick out cops, you definitely don't want to piss off gun lovers. I'm just saying.
Dude, I hate this argument that comes from like gun control or people who are just skeptical of Second Amendment rights. They're like, why do you need a gun? It's not like the gun would ever protect you from the government in the first place. Like you're never, like, you don't need it. The government will just come and they'll nuke you. I'm like, dude,
that's why you were taking my gun away, because
are you kidding me?
That I
We've
won't
been
defend myself.
we've been fighting guerrilla warfare for decades at this point, and we'd never won a war against guerrilla warfare. The U.S. Army, we didn't win in that. We are losing in Afghanistan. They beat us with fucking old Soviet AKs from the 70s. You know, it's like, or from the 80s when we started giving them shit. But you don't think that Americans would fight to the death if there was like some usurper?
Usurper.
And they'd be doing it in the name of Jesus.
True. It's completely true. I mean, that like was Scott was something he was serious, but it was almost a joke. Like people are so attached to their home front. Like people try to destroy the Alamo. I mean, they would kill them. Another great podcast I've been listening to is called Biting the Bullet, and these are people like our age, ex-Marines, I think. But they got an episode called The Boogaloo, and what the Boogaloo is basically like, if worst comes to worst, it's just a fan, and there's like a revolution. Like society will do fine against the government because it's just guerrilla warfare. That's all it is. Like individuals are much more capable of using their firearms that they bought themselves, and just the inefficiencies of like the American military. I mean, you know, I'm not doing it justice. Like you need to listen to the show, but it would straight up be like a boogaloo, and it would be a hell show, and we would eventually, you know, end up as the victors. You know, not being a proponent for revolution, but you know, you definitely don't want to try it. It's just like you definitely don't want to go to war with Iran.
Dude, those guys, I've seen those. I follow those guys on Twitter. I want to listen to their podcast. That sounds really interesting.
So good, dude. So good.
I'm gonna listen to their stuff. It looks really interesting. Yeah, but they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. America would do just fine in guerrilla warfare. If there was a civilian fight against the U.S. public versus the government, it would be a brutal, bloody It would be a brutal bloodbath. But how do you think that plays out? Do you think that every single cop and every single National Guard and every single military man in the world just goes on the government side? There's going to be people who are going to defect from that side, and they're going to be able to train the resistance. You know,
especially when they see that the resistance is better trained than the actual cops. Like the physical fitness standards and just the training in general are pathetic. And by the way, do you know how many people like have? This is kind of like a rhetorical question, but do you know how many people that actually have like multiple guns without having a license? When I was in Seattle last summer for my cousin's bachelor party, like in the morning, we all went up, drove up to the mountains, and everyone had like ARs and handguns and shotguns and all this shit. And we just straight up like found a area up there, and we shot PlayStations and just random stuff. And everyone had a gun like it was nothing. Like it's not that hard. Like, we're talking about, whether or not that you're for nationalism. We're talking about property rights at the end of the day. It's like, I live here, I'm paying off this house, or this is my stuff, this is my gun, this is my family, these are my friends, these are my loved ones, this is why I'm here, this is what represents me. So raise the flag, come and take it. I mean, that is the embodiment and soul of really kind of like what Americanism is. Coming over for like this new free land of an opportunity, and the government's just gonna come and take it away from me after how hard I've worked. And they say that my tax dollars are going to all these public programs that are gonna be, the better for me. Oh, and by the way, apparently, it's voluntary for me to pay taxes. Okay, fucking go for it. Like, try not paying taxes. So that's what you're doing with when you're gonna try to take people's guns away.
One of my favorite, I'm a huge Dave Smith fan as well. He definitely made me more. His appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast had probably converted more libertarians than anything ever.
Yeah, I should have mentioned Joe Rogan, just the people he's had on. He's had to kind of like cuck out in a way and keep it on the down low with some stuff lately. So I've heard.
He gets Dave Smith. I mean, he has really good people on. He has some really bad people on, but whatever. It's supposed to be a show that's kind of fair.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Dave Rubin's good at that too.
Who?
Dave Rubin, just having people like talk.
Yeah, Dave Rubin's good. Dave Rubin's ideas. There's so many ideas that are coming.
I agree with that.
They're ideas. My brain is literally spinning because of these ideas. The guys, I don't want to talk shit about Dave Rubin, but I will say that Sam Cedar, who is like a big leftist, he makes fun of Dave Rubin a lot, and it is pretty funny. They make fun of him a lot, and it's like, I feel
humor unites us, man.
They're pretty funny when they rip on him. But yeah, Joe Rogan, he'll have a guy like Sam Harris on who is like bad on everything. And then
you're talking about Dave Smith though. I kind of derailed you.
Oh, Dave Smith? I thought you said Dave Rubin.
Oh no, well we went into Dave Rubin, but
oh yeah, Joe Rogan. I mean Joe Rogan will have a guy like Sam Harris who's bad on everything, and then he'll have a guy like Dave Smith who's great. But he has more of like the Sam Harris types, Michael Shermer types, Michael Squirmer, Michael the Squirmer Shermer.
Just like rock throwing distance away. Actually, I can't say that because I hear you're like driving like 10 miles in a car in LA is hell. So
he'll have Ben Shapiro on. Ben Shapiro's really good on on everything except his foreign policy. He's terrible.
Yeah, man.
Foreign policy.
I used to like him. And, like the whole merch thing, like Liberal Tears Tumblr, and like the feud he had with Crowder about the Mug Club mug.
It's Ben Shapiro's audience is the other day I heard his audience was like turning against him on his Iran positions.
Oh, good for them.
There
is hope, dude. This is our moment.
Yeah.
So now, if you keep doing the Ben Shapiro intros, maybe they haven't like fully converted and are still not as intellectual, so you could trick them. You'd be like, "Oh, this isn't Ben Shapiro." Oh my god, bad.
I'd have to do the old reversal in height because I'm 6'5" and he's like 5'6", so I'd have to switch that out.
Are you really 6'5"?
Yeah, I'm 6'5".
Oh, you bastard.
He's a short man.
He is.
I mean, I was a big fan of Ben Shapiro when he first came out. Everyone loved Ben Shapiro when he was destroying leftist schools, destroying 18-year-old social justice crybaby on two genders. I was like, dude, it doesn't take a fucking rocket science to explain to somebody that there's only two genders. You're not winning any hard academic debate that takes much research. You're simply saying, no, there's only two genders. Okay, you believe there's more? Well, then you're fucking nuts. And then that's the debate, because that's really what all it takes. He does
I
everything.
have to say, like, he helped me like change my mind. Not that I believe that like it was a spectrum or whatever, but you know, just like his brazenness and Jordan Peterson as well. Like back in the days when I
Jordan Peterson, like trying to do the Kermit the Frog voice. Oh, Kermit.
yeah.
Jordan
Um,
Peterson. I like
it's just
JP.
kind of uncanny how just like saying the obvious is so earth shattering, because you know you don't want to infringe on people's little feelings. It's like, well, I don't know. Like the generations, like I guess our gen or mine, I guess ours, but especially like below, it's just kind of like terrifying. Of, are we only going to get like softer from here, or I mean, I hear like the opposite of, you know, like these kids coming up like don't want to take shit, and I don't know. Hope the future's not too bleak.
There's a siren coming on my side, so I muted my my box. So you might have to talk a little bit more. I don't know if you hear it.
No, I did. I mean, it's gone now. But,
It's gone now. It's what
oh,
you live in New York. I got it. So
sounds of New York.
I think we're at like an hour and 20 minutes right now. I think
Oh snap!
yeah, we did this. This actually turned out pretty well. I'm happy. It's good. I don't know
Sue, you
if
weren't a
you got
complete fucking failure. Nice.
what's up.
It's a Sue, you weren't a complete fucking failure. Nice,
No,
dude.
I thought this was good. I hopefully this opens up doors to do more podcasts like this. I think they're fun to do. Some of the just like casual politics. Anyone who's listening who's another podcaster, reach out. Let's try to see if we can build some momentum on this movement. I don't care what like whatever political party or what you identify as politically. Just want to have a world of ideas. Like I just can't get over that. I just want ideas.
I
We're the
do
intellectual dark web.
want to like. Dude, we got to come up with our own thingy.
You know
Oh,
what?
here we go. The pseudo-intellectual dork web. There we go.
You
How
can't
about
use your
that?
name.
Why not?
You
It's
got
not
to
my name.
do.
My name's
You got to do. You got to do something like the
the
intellectual
pseudo-intellectual
freak show
bro
or
web.
something.
The pseudo-intellectual bro web.
The intellectual freak show or something like that. I don't
I
know.
I'm reaching way too hard, dude. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Well,
There is one thing I do want to touch up on before we end. Is oh wait, Siren.
you can go. I'm muted right now
I
on
said
the
you're gonna
cast.
save a life. I'm just kidding. That was cruel. I do want to emphasize though, when you brought up the situation of privacy rights. I mean, you're talking about that one economist who was not economist, like the one leftist that was really good on foreign policy, and also the journalist who was good
Clint
on,
Grunwald.
yes, who's good on privacy. I just think it's important to remember, though, coming from like the libertarian perspective, that like if any liberties are violated, all of them are, because at the end of the day, like, what is your privacy? Okay, that might be like a civil right, civil liberty, a human right, but at the end of the day, like us as humans, we are ourselves, we own our own bodies, and that is also a property right. So you are not only infringing on a personal civil liberty of privacy that's being invaded, but again, going back to the non-aggression principle, uh, you know, the invasion of your privacy is aggression on your, you know, your personal choice, your person as property. So all of your rights, or no matter if it's one specific right that's being invaded, all of your rights are then invaded just because of that coercion. Because it's happening to you, dude, and you're your own person, your own body, and your own property. So I just want to emphasize that, yeah, you know, he might be good on this area, and I'm not like trying to dock him on that. But it's important at the end of the day that, you know, rights are rights and they come from people, and it should be self-evident, you know. So any right that's broken is, you know, a violation on every God-given rights or whatever that you think you have. So there's
And
no real distinction between personal and or civil rights and property rights. I just wanted to clear that up.
Well, that was a great explanation because, I mean, I don't want to paraphrase it, but so like
Do it.
rights are born, you're born with rights. Government doesn't give you rights.
Exactly. And no piece of paper made by the government's going to protect you because that's bullshit. But it was a nice start.
All right. All right. Let's wrap this baby up. We'll figure out a time to talk about that stuff after the recording. Guys, thanks for joining this new kind of thing with Bro History. We'll see where this goes. And podcasters, I know, hit either of us up. I don't know. We'll try to build upon this. All right, peace.
Oh, no plugs?
Oh, shit. Sorry, man. Plug your stuff. I thought we plugged your stuff in the beginning. Make sure that we plug your stuff, and then we restarted the intro because of the wig. Or should I say that, or should I edit that out?
Oh, you're going to edit that out.
I'll edit that out.
Shit. Oh, well, no, because you were like, so if you can get at us, so like what better way to like get at us than.
So plug your stuff, your Twitter and all that. In
cool.
your podcast, your Twitter, how you would prefer the people to reach out to you or listen to your show.
Yeah, so I am Mr. Pseu at Mr. Pseu, just MRPSEU, and that's on the Twitters, on the book faces, and we're social media. If you want to like email, it's mr.pseudolects. That's mr.pseudolects @gmail.com, if whatever you want to do that. And yeah, I'm anywhere that you can get to a podcast in the mixed economy that we live in that's not free market, but iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all that good jazz. And yeah, I got some episodes in the can. I got a 2-parter with Henry, if you want to check that out. And the most recent one from Brew History was with Danny Abdel-Jabbar, where we smashed Trump tariffs together. And other than that, keep tuning into Bro History because it really keep me aligned with everything that's going on. And you should be listening to it, or else you're a fool. So yeah.
And our next episode will be about chemtrails. Frogs, gay frogs, gay frogs.
Wait, I'm still waiting for the Toyota Wars, dude.
I know, man. We got to do that. I'm so behind on the stuff I've promised. I've promised a Toyota Wars, a Muslim Brotherhood episode, and I think I promised an MEK one and also a one on. I didn't know. I haven't promised the MEK one yet. I'm getting an expert on that one. I'm not going to do it by myself. I have no business to. I need someone who's been doing that for a while.
Nice.
But I want to do a. I've been doing one on Syria, like just kind of a complete breakdown on like everything that's happened in Syria for a 100-year period. And it's not that I haven't been working on it. It's that I keep on just discovering and learning new things, and I don't even know where to start. Like I'm making like I guess the project turned a little bit more ambitious because I started all the way back in the 6th and 7th century. So it's
shit.
It's
We're still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording. Yeah, but I guess I'm hyping up. I don't know when this is going to be out, but I'm trying to do like a really thick one. It may even be its own fucking podcast, not even Bro History. But all right. Peace, guys. Thanks for joining.